So last time I was working on this font, I was exploring a weight range, and I'm not totally sure whether or not it needs that. It needs more sketching. But one thing I am sure of is that it needs accents. So accents are used in many Latin script languages, other than English, but also actually they end up in English a lot as well. So names like Andre or words like cafe or jalapeno that come from other languages, these accents show up. A lot of others do as well. And of course, English is not the only language. Um, I obviously want to support as many languages as I can at a high quality with my fonts within what I'm reasonably able to do. So accents are basically a no-brainer addition to every one of my fonts. And then depending on the font, the scope of language support and accents can be pushed further or kind of kept at a more basic level. For this first round, I'll probably do things a little bit more basic, partly just because I'm still figuring out what the accent should be. So one thing right off the bat is that this family is mostly a blackletter family for the lowercase, but mostly a Lombardic family, or it has these Lombardic caps for the uppercase. So it looks kind of different. And I suspect that that might mean that I need to make different accents for the upper and lower case. Let me turn off the beam for now. But I'm not sure yet. I usually start with the lowercase accents, and that's what I'll do here. I'll then apply them to both lowercase and uppercase, see how that's working out, and go from there. I feel like I'm always figuring this out a little bit as if for the first time. So the first thing I would tend to do is come up to Glyph Browser. This is a fantastic extension for adding in glyphs that you need. So for instance, it gives you like basic kind of named or categorized lists of glyphs. These have varying degrees of helpfulness for historical reasons, essentially. You can also like search in here. So if I want to do all or many acutes, I can search by acute. I could type the actual glyph. So like if I know I want these several, accents, I can like type things on my keyboard and add these, but these are just adding those specific glyphs like A grave, A ring, E acute. Whereas what I need to do is add combining accents and then use those plus the existing glyphs to build the composed character set of this font. So, like, I don't know why I'm being so forgetful right now. Let's see. Probably a good way to do this is I've got various character sets. Oops. Plugged into my RoboFont preferences. And for instance, here's a good one that I've defined for like to cover as much as possible of kind of 5 primary languages. This is just kind of a starting point for my fonts. And yeah, so I've defined that separately. It's actually in a GitHub repo if you want to look at it. Let's see. Yeah, so it's at arrowtype/char sets for character sets. And this is just kind of a basic one. I've also included some character glyph construction, as it's called, which you can use in another RoboFont extension to quickly generate characters from little recipes like I plus breve com at top. So let me start by adding a smart set for the characters. Create new set from glyph names. Wait, that's not what I want. I know there's a way to do this. Is it under Smart Group? I've done this, and I'm just like kind of spacing out how to do it again. Let's see. There should be... What on earth? This is something I may have to consult the documentation about. I see. I could add glyphs like this, or I could also copy those from there, and I'll start a new set from glyph names. Let me copy this set of glyph names. That's short for English, Spanish, French, Portuguese, German, or Deutsch. Cool. So I have smart groups. I recently deleted all of my side groups because they were just like too much, and I figured I might as well start again. So once you've added a smart group, you can double click on this pill, and then you could create all missing glyphs, or you can like select several and create those specifically. I'm just going to create all missing glyphs, and then we can overwrite them when we need to. So RoboFont helpfully fills in some. I'm going to kind of pull up these combination accents. And this is kind of depending on me having named them well. I'm slightly confused at the moment to see that dot accent is not a combining accent. So like there's a whole thing between accents that are spacing versus combining. Combining accents do the thing where they can be added arbitrarily to glyphs so long as those glyphs have anchor points. This is getting a little bit technical, and it shouldn't necessarily be. So maybe I'll stop explaining everything and just kind of do a little bit of this. Dot above. Okay, so this is a spacing modifier. I don't want a spacing modifier. Let me search. Yeah, so I think perhaps I have the wrong name, actually. There's like a default set of glyph names that come from Adobe, I believe. And if you add that name to a font in RoboFont, it will, okay, here's the thing I want. Dot accent CMB, short for comb. That's the thing I want, not just dot accent. So I'm going to add this to the font. Oops, did that actually add? I don't know if I have to select it. And let me go copy this name. I'm going to do Alt Command C. And okay, I'm going to paste that in a couple of places. First of all, I want it in my combining accents. I don't even want the normal accent by default, so I'll add this in. I'm also going to edit this real quickly just so I don't make the same mistake in the future. So yeah, I don't want, all right. Wait, is that a lot shorter? Uh-oh. All right, so I'm going to do a simple edit. I'm going to edit that so it edits as little as possible. And then I'm going to copy this into my settings because I think the thing on GitHub is a more recent source of truth. Oh. Or perhaps it had duplicates. All right, I should have sorted this out before, but this is a good thing to sort out at some point. I think that's pretty good. All right, and I wonder, can we just easily see? Oh, no, that is not a very helpful change. Oh well. All right, so long as I've got the dot accent com, that's what I wanted. Cool. And I will delete this one. It's a placeholder, so I think that command delete should work, or command backspace. Oh, no, it leaves it there. That's annoying. So I've got to use my special glyph super remover, which you can figure out from the RoboFont forum. Okay, I'm also going to copy these accents and just add a set from these glyph names. So I'll call them basic accents, because they're basically accents for basic Latin. And maybe calling it basic Latin is a bit of a, I don't know. Most common Latin, I think, is okay to say, because it's the Latin used by a small set of characters used by like most of the world. Yeah, so language support is always a choice. And if you want to get into it, it's probably a political choice. But it's also, maybe the charitable way to say it is that it's a practical choice. I want, I have limited time and I want to support as many people as I can, but I have limited time, so I'm doing what I can. All right. So an acute kind of goes up and to the right. And sometimes I try to check these things to make sure I'm not messing them up. And I'm just drawing like some kind of off the top of my head, right? Like for now. Because, I don't use accents as much as somebody would if they were writing in another language all the time. So I like to make sure that I don't make mistakes. One simple way to do this is like going into the Space Center a lot. Does this have a Unicode? Oh, this doesn't have a Unicode yet. That's not great. That probably means that it doesn't have the best possible name. So let's give it a better name. Should maybe be acute comb without the OMB. Let's try to edit that and see if it will add the basic Unicode by itself. Auto Unicode. Hey, that worked nicely. We'll do that for GravComb as well. And that also added the Unicode. Nice. So I'm going to edit this again, actually. Just so it keeps up. It was over here, acute CMB, Grav CMB. Okay. And I'm going to, I guess I'll update my character set once more. Okay. Okay, and right, so I'm gonna pop this back. Okay, here's what I'm looking for. Now, it's really kind of a small detail perhaps in a video, but if you click Option Command S when you're hovered on a glyph in this view, it'll pull up in the Space Center in RoboFont, and it'll give you like the So let's get a better example of this. Let's select ABCD, get them into Space Center, Command Option S, and it gives us just like basic text, which is the SF font from Apple, and then all our glyphs. And then, like, for instance, the cool thing about Space Center is that it makes it good for like testing between test characters to refine our spacing. But something I also appreciate is just a quick sanity check that I'm using, like, I have the correct shape for the glyph I'm drawing. And this is pretty helpful in making sure you draw the right accents, because I'm a little bit dumb sometimes and I can draw the wrong thing. Yeah, so it's just like good to do this real quickly to make sure I haven't totally flubbed it and drawn the wrong thing. All right, so I'm just gonna draw, like, I'm gonna try to draw these very quickly and then kind of clean them up more later. This is just kind of a initial step. Okay, I don't want these separating. Something useful also is the overlays UFOs extension. And this allows me to, for instance, check on how things compare, because I tend to start a font by drawing the basic English alphabet, and that includes the letter I and J, which have an accent. It's a dot. So this allows me to compare my accent and decide, how the acute might compare against the I. All right, and then let's do this properly. As a combining accent, we will add an anchor. It's an accent, so it gets an underscore anchor, like underscore top. We'll put this to 0, and then Command I to pull up our inspector window, give it 0 width. Okay, now this is an accent. All right, and it's looking a little bad to me. That's looking a little better. All right, I'm also going to pop it into the Grav and flip it. And let's see. This was about 25 to the left, so let me make this a 0 width real quickly, and then I'll put it. Why can't I select something? Okay, 25 to the right. And this should possibly have a right or left extrema, but it may not need it. The bottom extrema and the top extrema is more important. These are things for rendering and for drawing and for interpolation. Okay, so I've got those basic. I will certainly be cleaning up those drafts further. But partly I just want to kind of sketch these as quickly as possible, and then I can do a refinement phase later. So I draw the circumflex by, like, often starting with these two and getting them like this. And it's a pretty condensed font, so I'm trying to draw these things a little more condensed, a little more economically than I may normally do. And maybe let's use this cool technique of, like, the transform tool and then skewing. Cool. I don't need this. All right, I'm gonna flip this guy and then see how it's looking. That looks reasonably okay. I may come back to that basic construction, so I'll pop it in the back, but I'll click O to remove overlap. Ooh, and I will clean this up because that is ugly. And yep, kind of like that. Clean this up and bring it back. This is why it was pretty useful to copy that into the background for one. And then this has a sharp corner here, which I'm trying to avoid in this font. Let me see if this tool is working. Oops. What extension is this? It's like overlap corner, but it's a special version made by OK Type, I believe. Jackson Kavanagh. Super handy though. Oops. I have set smooth point set to the S shortcut. All right, so that's looking pretty okay. And I will, because I'm still early in the font, well, actually, add component, circumflex. As long as you add the correct thing to a UFO's metadata font.lib, you are able to use translated accent components. So that can be useful for this glyph, because like, for instance, if I, especially early on, make some changes to my circumflex, I would like those to be reflected in the Charon without it being any work. So that's a nice way to do it. But if you just leave these as components that are flipped around or transformed, that can cause really big issues in printing. So you have to have a decompose. Okay, I'll just go find it. It's in the UFO to font filters. Decompose components. Let's see if I can Google it. Oh boy. It's like an oddly specific thing. Often I just copy it from existing fonts. Let's see, maybe. Which library is this? Okay. We'll search filters here. And wow, why is there no just simple list of, okay, here it is. There's no like, is there no simple list of filters? Like you'd think there would be some. What's the best way? Okay, here's probably a better way to do it. You come over here. But it is harder than it maybe it should be. Like I really wish there were just a list of these filters. But let me just search for decompose, and then this will, yeah, so it's in the tests. Oh, here's a list of them, I suppose. Yeah, okay. Well, the main one I want is this, decompose, transformed, and then also flatten components filters, also very useful. So in fact, I will pop it right into the lib.p list. What's the best way to do this? Do I have any UFO? Nope. I'm sure there's a script actually to just add these, or a way to do it in the script. Let me try to do that. So pop up in the Python window, f equals current font f.lib. What if I print f.lib just to make sure I'm getting it right? Okay. I think I would do, I think it's a dictionary actually. Oh my gosh. All right. I'm going to cheat and look at an existing font. All right. Let's find this UFO to font. Definitely don't want that. Okay. So indeed, this is at the lib.p list. And what we've got to do is basically, yeah. So I'm going to do all of these. I'll put them up top. Why not? And then I don't actually want it to decompose a bunch of these, so I'm going to delete this dictionary. Okay, why is that not working? What? Oh, I'm literally pressing delete and it's not deleting. Okay, that's not normal. Okay. Just a weird glitch in VS Code. All right. Okay, so here's what I want. And let me like convert indentation to tabs to get it working again. Okay. So I think that's pretty good. But I may need an additional. I'm just trying to make sure that I have the right amount of XML in here. I believe I probably need an extra dictionary closer. Maybe. Let's see what I do here. So it starts with key and then it's an array. Key. Oh, I probably need. I probably need an array to close this. That's my best guess. Maybe? Let's see what this ends up with. Yep, okay, yeah, exactly. So it ends in an array. All right, just wanted to make sure. Because it's, yeah, a list of, oops. Why isn't that putting a tab? It's a list of dictionaries. All right, for each of the filters. Harder than it needs to be. I'm sure there's like a proper little script I could create. Okay. Did it work? A little hard to say. We should be able to test this actually if we do like this. So it's saying it's not there. All right. Well, let me write it the way I think it should be actually anyway. So this is like a dictionary. What do we do? I think we'd do this. And then I think we'd do no. All right. We'd do like this maybe. Thrilling content, I'm sure. No, that should be pre. And I wonder if I can like actually format this in a better way. Probably. This flattened components thing is also useful for avoiding printing issues, especially in TTFs. Okay, so I'm gonna save this, let's say. We'll save it in our Curios scripts. I haven't actually written RoboFont scripts here yet, so I'm gonna add a folder. Filters. Okay, that weird typo. Let me pop that open and fix the typo. Okay, I'm going to quit out of RoboFont and pop it back open just to make sure whether or not these edits happened. Great. All right. So this is telling me I messed up the formatting. That's okay. I can fix it. What does it say? Line 22, column 10. All right. Let's try this. Not that one. This one. Line 22, column 10. I think probably I have an additional array out here that I don't need. So let me try to open this font again. List index out of range. What does that mean? It's like going through an array and it has one too many things or something of that sort. Maybe it doesn't need this dictionary closer quite yet. That's probably it. All right. Okay. So those errors can be a little scary, but sometimes, you know, once you kind of understand a few Python structures, you can work your way through it. All right. So, and by Python structures, I mean lists or arrays, dictionaries, and how those are translated, I suppose, intoplists, which are XML or very close to XML. I don't know technically if there's something different about a plist versus XML syntax, but it's basically XML. So let's say print, because I want to make sure whether we got those in there. Hey, we did. Okay, awesome. This is what I wanted. Cool. That's great news. And while I'm at it, I might as well open Curios text and also throw it in there. So I think I had this. Oh, that didn't work. LOL. Let's see. What if I make this literally like, does that work? Simplify that script a bit. I think that works. All right, I'm going to overwrite the other one. Cool. The simple and more bulletproof way. Save. Okay, this probably seems like a lot of hassle for saving a little bit of time in using the Circumflex for the Karen, and maybe it is, but it's also preventing me from like weird, unnecessary accidents later, so it's also worth it from that front. to me. I don't know quite how I would make a tilde comb for a black letter font, but I assume perhaps it might be like, let's go grab our hyphen. Let me put this over here. Okay, let's go grab our hyphen and then throw it up here. And maybe I'll like, because I'm basically imagining like a lightning bolt essentially, sort of thing. Maybe that's wrong, but I think it could be something like that. And the thing I like to do is kind of not draw things from scratch if I don't need to. It's often faster to, well, it depends. It's often faster to have a decent little basis for your ad extrema. Often faster to have a basis for your contours and your point structure than to not, but you can get hung up on it and waste a bunch of time, and I guess it's always the question, which is which. Make sure we have our off curve actually outside of the point there. All right, I should really be drawing with this window open still. And let's like rotate this and do something like this. It occurs to me that perhaps I could have, like, again, duplicated my Circumflex. So like, what if we do this and then rotate it 180? Yeah, honestly, that's better, I think, than what we were doing already. So that's maybe a smarter way to get our quick structure. And we have fewer adjustments to make. So that's always pretty nice. Wait. Okay. Let's use sidebar to approximately center it. And like that. Looks like maybe we've got overlapping points, which we do not want. Let's make sure we have extreme points here. I'm not actually sure whether it's better or not to have extreme points in those little areas, but I assume it's probably slightly better. The reason it may not be is that like maybe these points are close enough to the apex for rendering to work well, and it will only make this turn harder to draw if we've got this many points so close together. And it will make it more likely that we'll have kinks. That's probably the biggest issue. This may be too wide, maybe, compared to the others. That's something I'll try to think about later. Let's make our dot accent. I'm going to borrow this from the eye because I'll use it later to build that eye. That was not what I wanted. I wanted 0. let's sort this in terms of the character set again. So I think that'll put our, okay, nice. So that puts our dot accent combining kind of in line with our accents again. And let's see. We'll make this diaresis comp. Add component. Dot accent comp. I'm going to copy and paste that to have it twice. Might be too close together. A lot of these things we'll find out once we actually start building glyphs, and then we can adjust. Ring com. This one might be a place I veer outside of the trying to make it blackletter, and I just make it more geometric because sometimes that just makes more sense. And the ring com feels like a place that would just make more sense. Maybe I'll give it a little bit of contrast. Let's make sure we are bringing our anchor through. It's there, it's there, it's there. It's way off center here. So let's center that. Cool. Yeah, ring camp. Let's make it trying to decide. Maybe I'll start with the 0 just to have the point structure, but I'll have to make it way smaller. I'm actually slightly confused about where these ends are coming from. It could be from Ramsey Street, maybe? I don't think. I don't know. That's funny. Oh well, they're not bothering me too much. It's just a little strange. I'm sure I'll figure it out soon. So option command. Wait. We'll drag. We'll kind of move a point from both ends, which is pretty cool. And I'm using scaling edit to like scale things in an easier way. And actually, I think this shouldn't be so much a circle as like a really oval. It'll probably have to be kind of squished because the X side is super tall. And then I'm trying to keep things relatively compact. So again, this is a thing that we'll probably have a better sense of once we actually start building glyphs. Okay. You know, it's a start. Dia, Breve, Macron. All right. Let's go grab our hyphen again. I'm hopping around by clicking J, by the way. Macron. A lot of the times I just kind of try to draw the like next glyph that feels simple. And I just kind of work my way through a font somewhat intuitively, basically trying to use the lowest hanging fruit at any given moment. The lowest hanging fruit being the next thing that's easy to grab that offers some value. It's kind of a corporate buzzword, perhaps? I don't know. Okay, so we're almost there, actually, for this little set. Cydia. Hard to say what we want this to look like. Hard to Cydia what we want to... No. Breve. Shoot. Sometimes when I add a drawing, No, I don't. Okay, I'll just pull it up. Okay, yeah, it's the little thingy. Okay. So often with a breve, I'll like start with my circumflex. I'll come over here. And then I'll paste it in and I'll rotate it around. And then I will just, let's add some extra. And then I'll just get rid of these. See how this works. I will probably have to really revise this one. But it's something. Looks kind of wrong to me right now. Let's just keep it fast though. Oh boy, so the Cydia is one that you have a fair bit of like flexibility with. Like it could be like a 5 almost, or it could be a lot more simple than that. I sort of aesthetically tend to prefer the simpler ones. I think they look kind of cooler. I'm not French, so my opinion probably doesn't matter too much here. I'm just trying to match accents to the design language, if you can call it that, of my font. And usually that means that I'm trying not to have too many really fiddly things. This font might be a bit different. Like, it's almost hard to say. It is hard to say. I don't know. Maybe I'll do like, I'll start with the comma just for a sense of scale. And we don't actually need probably a top here, but we do need a bottom connector. And then I will put that at the baseline. And then for now, let's just literally flip this. And that doesn't work yet. Sometimes I use 2 fingers to imagine how a calligraphy pen would draw something. So, it would draw something like this, I suppose. And then it would make it, let's keep it a little low. For our Cydia. I don't know. I think I'll really have to redraw this one later. But maybe we could do something like this. So like a little lightning bolt here. So like, let's rotate this. A lot of the time, for a native reader of a language, or like, somebody who uses the language actively, the main thing they actually need is just like a squiggle in the right spot to understand an accent. And then, they might have a stylistic preference, obviously, but I find it freeing to know that, like, if for the average person, like, they kind of, like, if you are somebody like me who unfortunately only knows English, like, you can accept kind of any shape of the tail of a G or the dot of an I or the tail of a Q. These are all basically accents. And you're not going to sit there and think, like, is that an I? Because it will make sense in the context of a word, or it won't. That said, legibility still matters. Shapes have meanings. But yeah, it's freeing to consider that, like, there's also a bit of flexibility, perhaps. All right. It's important when combining shapes to try to make sure you don't have like weird lingering off curves that are hiding. That can be hard to do sometimes. Okay. Well, it's ugly, but it's a start. Next step is, let's go grab our Glyph Construction, because this is the fun part that's actually kind of fun. Oops. Sure, let's add the basic anchors to the font first. So I'm just going to copy my script. Basically, this is a quick Python script. It's not very smart, but it like has a list of glyphs and basic areas where you would want to add like top and bottom anchors, and then a few other exceptions like the ogonek. Let's well, first of all, let's save this font and commit it to our Git repo, just in case we want to go back. So adding basic, like first draft, combining accents. Okay. So this way, since we're managing it in a Git repo, we can be fairly cavalier about what RoboFont scripts we want to add. Okay. Let's go look at what. Okay, so RoboFont is telling us it added anchors to all of these glyphs. They're unsaved changes, and it like basically adds at the top and bottom in the center. So that's pretty good. Actually, want to maybe. Yeah, I think Ramsey Street is probably like adding these by default, even though I don't want them to. That's strange. Oh well. All right, well, that's a start. And Glyph Construction. Okay, doing the fun part. Let's see. Accents are all set up, and then like a blazing moment of glory, and then a lot of fixing. So let's analyze our glyph construction to see what the results would be. And so to explain glyph construction for a second. Construction is a thing by Frederick Berlin, who is the primary guy who makes RoboFont. And it's basically like a little mini coding language to create composed glyphs out of base glyphs and other glyphs. You can use this for a lot of things, like starting out your ligatures, or like making a logo type, for instance, out of multiple letters that make a client's name or something like that. If you're making a custom font, for instance. But then this is the main thing. Like, you have a list of glyphs, and you can use this extension called Glyph Builder. Glyph Builder, you can add your glyph construction language, and these take a little bit of time to write the first time, but you can get kind of quick if you're good with a text editor like VS Code, and then you can add these things in and test them out. So like, for instance, okay, so here's an example. All right, I'm going to close out of this window. Why did that happen? All right. I changed my glyph set to no longer use the COMB thing. I'm just using CMB. So that is better. And if we make that change in the glyph construction, now these acute and grave accents are working better. And let's see, this breve clearly is missing the anchor. So let's pop it in there. All right, so we've got our top anchor. Okay. Oops, I just saved the font, so oh well. That's fine. Cool. So that fixed our breve actually. And this is a pretty good view of how these accents are aligning, like relative to one another. The ring accent, it's basically always going to be taller than this main set, but the others are like fairly decently aligned. The Sedea looks terrible right now, so I'm gonna definitely fix that. For one, like I feel like the curves are kind of at the wrong spot. So like this side to me should be sharper and this side should be softer. All right, but I'm actually going to add another glyph commit just to say like adding basic anchors to font. So let's fix a couple of these things before I'm actually just going to like copy this all, close glyph construction. And I'll save this actually as the recipe used. So usually I actually pop it in the RoboFont scripts folder. I make a specific folder for recipes because I make a lot of recipes throughout basic latin.txt. I make a lot of recipes throughout a font project. All right, so let's shrink this. Oops, that didn't work. We'll shrink this corner with our transform tool. And let's see if we can enlarge this corner. Oh, hold command, then pop out, then shift. All right, well, it's a start. This probably doesn't need to be so high. Maybe it doesn't, I don't know. Glyph construction again. Yeah, so there are issues, but wait, What is missing? Oh, all right, here's the big one. I am not yet set up with a dotless I. So you can see that like all these I accents are made with dotless I plus a combining accent. So let's build that dotless I. Let's go and grab the base of our I. And then pop it in here. And we'll grab the base of the J and do the same dotless J. Cool. So now these are appearing. Oh, but these still need top accents. Or anchors, rather. We could probably run that script again, but whatever. This seems pretty much as fast. Sometimes I have to close out of the Glyph Construction window because it just like kind of slows the thing down, or slows drawing down, since it's trying to like keep track of all the changes and then apply them in the preview. And yeah, at least on my computer, that just kind of makes it chug along a little bit. All right, but it's easy enough to like, oops. This tool is called Paste. It's a few bucks on the App Store, but it's super handy because it like gives you a really nice history, and it's searchable, of things you're copying and pasting, which you do a lot of copying and pasting when you're coding or making a font or whatever else. Okay, so why is the, oh, let me go back and copy this edited version again. Okay. So, like, I think that maybe my acute and grave are a little bit extreme. Let's like give them a couple bumps towards the middle. I feel like that's working better. And it's also probably that, for instance, the capital E, yeah, so these are not optically centered above the high point of the letter, so of course they'll look a little wrong until I do that. Okay. So like, for instance, I might do a lot of this fixing before composing things, but let's just skip to the fun part now that we've done most of the preparation. And we will say build glyphs. And this gives us some options. I like to mark compose glyphs in gray. And look at this. Yes. Best part. It now does all sorts of work for us, since we did some basic work to get there. So I love seeing that fill in. Very fun moment. And you know, there's still plenty of things to fix. Like this is not yet looking right, but for instance, we can go and fix it. So that's an issue of like this being in a weird place. So let's put it in a better place. Might as well do that for the cap S as well. I had this on my clipboard from the C. This like Python script puts the bottom anchor at the glyph bound bottom of glyphs, which can be kind of useful sometimes, but here I'm trying not to do that. So if I analyze things again, we'll see that, well, let's check whether it fixed it by default. I don't think it does. Yeah, it didn't yet fix it, but for instance, we can rebuild again. And we could just build the one glyph, but that's easy enough. Nice, so that's looking better. And maybe it's a little off center. Perhaps that's a problem with our glyph we might want to fix, like in the drawing of the glyph. But, you know, that's to be continued. How is this C looking? Reasonable. Could probably be better. But yeah, that's a quick look at this. And then one thing we can do, for instance, is let's pop open the extension Wordomat, and then let's like grab a bunch of French words. Like 100 French words. I'll close this for now. And this will maybe help us see how our accents are looking so far. I'm going to give a little more line spacing. Yeah. So yeah, those are looking like pretty decent. And what if we do Portuguese? Is it not in there? Okay, apparently it's not in there. Even though it's a very common language, but it's probably because it's like super related to Spanish or something. I don't know. Yeah, so these are looking okay. This does make me wonder, like, why are there no Enyas in here or tildes? It could be that I'm kind of misnaming it and like maybe doesn't have the right Unicode. No, it's got a Unicode. Okay. Maybe it's just a little less common than. Okay, here's a word with an Enya, and to me it looks like this doesn't have. Like I think the tilde probably has to be narrower. So let's, for instance, have this word in here. Apologies, I don't know what that word means. Hopefully it's fine. Occasionally, you know, Wordomat's just kind of borrowing from a system dictionary, I think, on my Mac. So, you know, it borrows all sorts of words. Some of them can be a little dirty or offensive from time to time. But that's just because languages are that way. All right. Yeah. So I'm smoothing it out over here. And you'll see it's probably getting more narrow, but it's like going to the left. So one thing that can be useful is either running your Glyph Construction again, or there's another extension called Anchor Overlay Tool, which can sometimes be helpful with this. I mostly use it for the recomposing feature, so that's like Control Command R by default, and it kind of like recomposes based on an intelligent guess about what's there. I could go read the open source logic of it, but yeah, basically this tends to do what I want it to do until it doesn't, in which case I've got to use the Glyph Construction. Like if it doesn't work as well often for more complicated composed figures or glyphs like Vietnamese letters where there are multiple accents going on in the composition. And it seems like, does the I not have the dot right now? Yeah, it doesn't. So why might that be? Could be that my dot accent is incorrect. Okay, probably that's what's going on. Yeah, so where I have dot accent at top, I need to change that to dot accent CMB at top. And try that again. So I'm just going to rebuild a lot of these. Just for speed. Okay, there. Oh. It appears that the that the tops aren't yet in there. So let's go check that out. And let's see. Okay, so that's there. Okay, I am going to try this anchor overlay tool. Oh. Where is it? Maybe here. All right. Yeah, it doesn't really work with my current theme. Whatever. Let me just check. Dot accent comb. There's the problem. It doesn't have an anchor yet. So it needs this anchor. Okay, now. All right, something I'll do here to make this run a little faster is I will search every line that has this and do Command Shift L in VS Code and then copy just those lines. And then this will be almost instant. Cool. So now these are looking like the letter I again. Nice. So that is a good little start. As you can tell, I have more work to do here, but it's like how I tend to start out the accents in a font. And even for early versions of fonts, it's pretty useful to have accents so many more people can use the thing. And also accents have a lot of effect potentially on the design of the font, how things are all working. So it's good not to leave them as, you know, some far off thing that you'll do someday. Rather, it's good to really embrace the accents and do them kind of early on, make sure things are working. And one thing I'm sort of pleasantly surprised with, I guess, is like in Wordomat, if let's do all caps. These kind of black letter accents that I've tried to draw, like they don't look too out of place to me, at least, in our uppercase letters, which are kind of Lombardic letters, you know? And I think that's kind of because these uppercase letters are already being drawn to work with black letters. So like the shapes really aren't too different. Sometimes it can be very worthwhile to have case-specific accents anyway, and maybe I'll do that here, but like seeing them, I may not have to. Honestly, the tilde is the only thing that really kind of jumps out as being a little unnatural, but maybe that means that it's unnatural in the black letter as well, and it just has to be more wavy. I'll probably look at that again. Make it a little less pointy. It does look pretty darn pointy right now. Something else I see is that I've got black letter alternates for this typeface. So something I really need to do is for this particular typeface, extend my Glyph construction recipes to also construct alternate accented caps, and then extend the features to include those too, so that you can get these black letter caps whether you're typing in English or whatever other languages this font supports. So yeah, that's probably stuff I'll do on my own, not recorded, but you get the idea. Pretty fun process, super useful, and it takes a few iterations to really get it right. But yeah, if you're drawing accents, best of luck.